Hello everybody and welcome to a different kind of video here on this channel. Usually it's dedicated to fans. On occasion I delve into the audio stuff, and I realized that since I had this Speakerlab literature that I should do a video on this stuff. I know some of it's online. Not too sure if anybody has seen these top two pieces here. I know that these catalogs are online. But yeah, I figured that these would be a fun little thing to go through here, since I'm sure a few audio people do probably follow the channel since they've seen some things in the past, and definitely like to dive more into that in the future once I've got some time. So we'll start with this fall 1979 Speakerlab, or 75, sorry, Speakerlab catalog here. On the cover, that is the 7. The Super 7 did not yet exist. So here's just the little opener. So if you don't know, Speakerlab did kits. Basically, you would order them, and there was an option for them to be assembled. However, there was less customization options. Otherwise, you would put everything together with them. You know, you'd put the speakers in, and you'd staple in all the insulation, and you'd, staple the grill, and you would do all that yourself, basically, with these. So here's just some more information. Here you see the 1 and the 2. These are essentially bookshelf speakers, although the 2 is a slightly larger scale one. Later on, they did introduce the point one, which was even smaller. That will be featured in that catalog. Here we have the 3 and the 4. These are some of the more larger floor speakers here, and they're very similar. The main difference is that the 4 actually uses a horn there for the high range instead of just another little cone speaker tweeter. And let's see, was there anything else I want to mention about these? If there was, I can't think of it. But you can already see by the weight of these speakers, they're already 50 pounds each. So yeah, these things were solid. They had heft. They sounded good. As I'm sure some of you guys know, we have a pair of Super 7s. My dad hung on to those. As you know, I've moved. But he still has those. They will not be going anywhere. And I'm sure once he's done with them, which is probably going to be years and years from now, I will integrate them into my stuff. But he has the space and the use for them, and they are his after all. So that's why they stayed with him. And these are about the size of, just the really, the sort of the smaller floor standing speakers, essentially. But these ones here, these were the much larger scale ones. This is the 7 here. And the 7 is very similar to the Super 7, which they introduced later. The main difference was that the high, or I should say the mid and the high range horns, they just had much larger drivers on them. That was the main difference there. But yeah, this was a three-way speaker system with two different sizes of woofers there. I always did find this setup and this design really interesting. And yeah, they definitely sound good. Well, I know the Super 7 sounds good, and well, yes, the 7 is technically a step down. I'm sure they still sound just as good. And yeah, they are really rare, especially the original ones. They make the Super 7 now. As you know, Speakerlab still exists. They do make the new Super 7, which they introduced, oh gosh, was it like 10 years ago? And yeah, so they still do make those. And here is the Speakerlab K. This is, of course, modeled after the Clipshorn, except it is, it's Speakerlab. I know a couple people have found pairs of these. I'd be really curious to see how they sound, especially stacked up against the actual Clipshorn. But yeah, oh, and they're very heavy at 170 pounds. And if anybody would like better pictures, I can post them to my community tab. Or all these old catalogs are available on the Speakerlab website. I'm not too sure about this price guide and the warranty sheet, but I know these actually are available online. And then here we just got a bunch of just information, basically. Speakerlab, I really like the way they did their catalogs. They were always set up good, and they had plenty of information in them, especially for somebody who wouldn't even be very experienced. And heck, I'm not even the most experienced, so having these catalogs are really nice. So yeah, those were all the woofers there. These are all the mid-range speakers here. I believe that a lot of the horns might have been Electro Voice. They sure looks like Electro Voice. And then here we've got all the tweeters here. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of these drivers do look familiar, and I'm sure you have seen them in some capacity in some other speakers. I don't know if Speakerlab made any of their own actual speakers or slash drivers, or whether they just they outsourced. Not 100% sure exactly how much they did themselves. Here's just some information on accessories and crossovers. We have some other information here, including building your own enclosures. At some point I would like to take a stab at that myself once I have some more time. Just hoard a bunch of random drivers and stuff and see what I can kludge together. My old shop teacher did a good job with his speakers and with those as a guide. I'm sure I could do something similar. Here's just some other information and such, and that light's a little bit bothersome. I'll move that out of the way so you can see a little bit better here. See, this is all basically just information on the company and some old pictures and such. And here's some of the ordering information here. Then here's this. I'd be very curious to know if they still use that same phone number. I kind of doubt it. And here's the back, and as you can see, there's more writing on this. I'm not too sure exactly. So the Speakerlab speakers that we've got, they were my grandparents, and all these manuals and catalogs and stuff were theirs too. So my uncle bought a pair. My grandpa was so impressed that he went out and bought a pair. And yeah, I'm not too sure exactly where he got them. Unfortunately, I can't ask him now as he's since passed away. That's why we even had the speakers in the first place. But anyways, here's this catalog. I'm trying to remember what year this is. This is 1978. This one's in full color, and it's got some additions to it. Interestingly enough, I'm noticing the different grills, that came with these speakers. The grills that were on mine, I don't ever really recall seeing too much, so I'm not too sure whether my grandpa just custom made them. And if you're wondering what they look like, they're in a video somewhere. I'm not too sure where, but they're out. Or I can just post some pictures of them to my community tab. So anyways, here we start off here with the 0.1, and this is what I was talking about, the really, really small bookshelf speaker. And apparently they do sound quite good. I know that of one person who had them. I saw a post about it. And then here we have the 1 again. And then I like the I like how they've got testimonials there and all the information. Like I said, these catalogs are really well set up. I'm very happy to have these. Here we have the 2. I've got a set of speakers that are the same size as the 2s, except they're called their label is Paragon, and they're actually set up very similar to these, and the drivers look rather similar. Those are some of my favorite speakers. I'm really happy I've got those. Here we have the 2.5. I don't think this was in the last catalog here. Once again, that light is being rather bothersome. I'm trying to block it as best as I can. Yeah, this is essentially a midway between the 2 and the 3. I think it's probably, well, actually I'll let you figure out whether they're the same size as the 2s or not. Here we have the 3. And then we've got the 4. Does look like the speakers, at least the drivers, are laid out a little bit different by this time. And then here we have the 6. I saw a pair of these on Marketplace. I really wanted to buy them, but my dad was like, we already have a pair of Super 7s. Why do we need these? And I'm like, well, I mean, they probably sound good. Yeah, the main difference here is that there's just one less woofer. That's the main difference between these and the 7s. And then obviously the Super 7s have the better drivers. Here are the 7s. Then finally we have the Super 7. Just looking at these speakers, oh god. Well, I can just hear the sound. These things they sound just out of this world. They really are fantastic. And yeah, they didn't make the original Super 7 for very long. Or was it the 7? Actually, I'm honestly having a hard time remembering now. Actually, no, I think I remember now. So they did discontinue the Super 7 not extremely long into its run. I think it might have only lasted like 5 years. But then they had different forms of the 7. I think was there one called the 7WA? For some reason that's coming into mind. That might have been it. Basically, they just had different layouts of cabinets for the 7. Used the same drivers as the 7, except they were just laid out differently. I do seem to recall that being a thing. And then here we've got the K again. You can actually get a better look at the drivers on there now. Yeah, I would really, really love to hear how these bad boys sound. And then here we've got just sort of a, here you can see the process of building the speakers. And I believe it did cost, well, obviously it would cost less to do them yourself rather than have the factory do it for you. And then here we've got some information on the woofer design here. And then I don't remember if they did that for, nope, we just move on here to the different woofers that they have available. And then here we've got mid-ranges right here, and then full ranges. Now what's very interesting is these speakers here are very similar to the ones that are on my custom speakers that my old shop teacher had built. Those were made by Peerless Audio. Not 100% sure if those are also Peerless or whether they're just a similar format. Obviously, there are different companies that made speakers and sometimes they got to be pretty similar. And then here are the tweeters. And then we have the horns. And yeah, these they just sound fantastic. They really, really do. And then now here we just got some information on the crossovers and the accessories. And then here's an information thing on why you should build your own speakers. Well, I guess it's more fun. You can be more proud of them. And then here we've just got some more information here. A lot of this is probably rather similar to the last catalog. Might be a little bit longer. But yeah, just a bunch of good information here for you to pause and read. Here we got some more information. That's actually rather small. Okay, phone, can you please focus? There we go. I'm sure hoping you can read all of that when you pause. But if you can't, like I said, I believe these scans are available on their website, or I can just post them to my community tab. And then here we have the story. And then I think that there was their facility where they had them all. That was actually like a store you could go in and check out all the speakers. God, I'm not too sure if the place still exists. I'm sure they probably still do have a store somewhere. I would have loved to go to that original one. And here we just got some more information. And then we're back to the cover. So those are the two that I know there are scans of online on the Speakerlab site. I'm not too sure if this ever made it out. I believe this is a price list if I remember right. I have no idea what year it's from. I tried to find it. I'm not seeing anything here. But yeah, so this is the price list. Obviously, this is for the 70s, so it has changed a lot. I think in this catalog, if I remember, the Super 7 was, about $400 or $500. Now, that's about $5,000. And that is about also what the new Super 7s do cost. See, I'm not really too sure if this has ever been documented before. Once again, if you need better pictures, please just ask. And then finally we have the warranty here. All right, so let's see, there's an envelope. Oh, geez, it's still sealed. I don't know if I want to open this. Well, this here clearly would have been for the what do you call it? I'm not sure if there's even, it doesn't even feel like there's any paper in here. I assume, if I do recall correctly, though, this is the warranty for it. If anyone desperately wants to see, I could crack it open and see what's in there if there's anything. It does feel like there might be something. But yeah, my grandpa, I guess, never filled it out. I mean, he had so much stuff. He always was quite a collector of different things. So yeah, he never really did fill out warranties. If something broke, he'd just go buy a new one and hang on to the old one. That's kind of was his thing. But yeah, I figured that these would be worth documenting on here, and just for a lot of the speaker enthusiasts out there, because I know I've definitely moved into that sort of group collective, over the last couple years. And yeah, I figure that this would be also good, so maybe some more people will come over to this channel. Right now, we are on a bit of a hiatus. Basically, I've just moved and all my stuff is in storage. I have no space for hobbies or anything. However, I just had these sitting in my drawer, and I figured that I should actually just do a video on them so they can get some use. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.